training sensitization program that we have today, so we are very fortunate. And we just hope that we will be able to learn what each of us can do and has to do within the mental health act that is there for all of us, and also the role that we can play in our own different ways. In my here, on behalf of the district administration, the Legal Services Authority, Prodigals Home, and all of us here stakeholders, I just want to mention some few things regarding this community mental health. Prodigals Home, we started working with the community mental health specifically just in the year 2020. In the peak of the corona time, we started. It was such a challenge for us, but by the grace of God and the support from each and every one, stakeholders, the community, we were able to do little bit that we can do within the short time, and within the short time of experience that we work in the community mental health program. What we have observed is that there's still so much, even here today in the year 2020, there's so much of ignorance among our people, particularly on mental health issues. So this is one area that we really need to educate ourselves so that we are able to do what we have to do and in what way we can help the community. And our experience working in the grassroots, we have seen that persons with severe mental disorder, they have been chained at home, tied at home, locked at home, like as if they are not human beings. That is also what we have observed right here, even in the Dimapur district. Forget about the other backward, or sorry for the backward district, the outward district, far-flung districts here in the cosmopolitan town of Dimapur and the surrounding areas of Chumukidima and Newland. We have seen how particularly persons with severe mental disorders are living very inhuman lives. So this brings us to the very fact that we need to work together. If we are able to put our efforts together, if we are able to see the collective role that we can play, and for this very purpose we are here today, to join our efforts together, to join our hearts, our hands, and our heads together, so that we are able to strengthen each other, we're able to complement and supplement each other in this effort of making our community a more compassionate community, a more caring community towards people who need our help and support, and to make our community a disabled-friendly community in the long run. So,
respected organizers of this program, resource persons, officials from different departments, and all the participants here today. Very good morning to all of you. Well, today in this training and sensitization on mental health care act and issues, I think I am the most ill-equipped and most inappropriate person to speak. But anyway, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You all will be more aware than me because you all have been here in the field, working in the field, associating with yourself with the issues. But today, I just want to take this opportunity and express my concern, express the concern of district administration, and also that just to express to each one of you that we in the district administration also, we are always whenever any issue arises regarding mental health, we are there to support you. We are there to cooperate with whatever we can. That is just, I wanted to assure you of that.
His capacity comes back. Thereafter, the advance directive will stop. And he or she has the power also to make a new advance directive. So as you say, today I made a written directive as how I want to be treated. After a month or two, when I still have the capacity, I can make another written directive. That's not an issue. But my new written directive will override my old written directive. Now, the procedure to make advance directives. As per the Act, it's been very specific to state that the procedure to make advance directives would be based on the Central Mental Health Authority. So, in 2020, the Central Mental Health Authority has made this regulation. As per the regulation, I've made it in point form, although it's a bit more longer. It emphasizes on the fact that it must be written, it has to be signed by 2 witnesses, and certified by a general practitioner. Now, the certified by general practitioner, it was to say the general practitioner has to mention very clearly that the person who has applied is mentally capable of making his own decisions. So it's not just on a piece of paper you write certified or nothing like that, but you have to mention very specific to say that I've examined him and he's capable of making his own decisions. Thereafter, it will be registered with the Mental Health Review Board. Now, in terms of advanced written directives, consent is to be taken when nominative representatives are present. So when I say nominated representatives, since I've not made a separate point on this, I'll just elaborate. Nominated representatives are those persons that you appoint, personally, you yourself can appoint, who will thereafter take decisions for you, as in your mental health care treatment, your procedure, the procedures, the rehabilitation plans, everything. These are the nominated representatives that you can appoint yourself, number one. Number two is, if by chance is not appointed, a caregiver can be appointed by the government, by the review board. Or if not, if there is no caregiver, then the director of the social welfare department will be made the nominated representative for the person with mental illness and will be appointed by the board. Now, in terms of advanced directives, ECT, I'm sure the medical officers will know, electroconvulsive therapy, shall not be used as a treatment. The duration of the treatment will be 72 hours. In Nagaland, it is 120 hours until the person is assessed, whichever is earlier. Also, 1 minute, in case I'm just diverting, but in case of Nagaland and northeastern state, I'm saying Nagaland, but it's actually in northeastern states, there is a specific provision which is made only for the northeastern states. It will last for, I think, 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, if the act is within 24 hours, it's increased to 72 hours. If it's 1 week, it's increased to 14 days. So, the time gap between the treatments and everything, in terms of a northeastern state, it's larger. That's it. Okay. So again, a very important point to be noted for medical officers are actually prohibited procedures. Under the Mental Health Care Act, ECT without the use of muscle relaxant and anesthesia is prohibited. ECT for minors is prohibited. However, I'll tell you the conditions. Sterilization of men and women when such sterilization is intended as a treatment for mental illness is also prohibited. And chaining, like as mentioned by Prodigals Home Director also, regarding chaining, this is in no manner of form whatsoever will be allowed. Sorry, this point was actually for the other one. Okay. Treatments on condition. Certain treatments are allowed, however, subject to certain conditions. Right, so now in terms of, psychosurgery, this can be elaborated by the medical officers. Restraint and solitary confinement, electroconvulsive therapy for minors. Now, these are conditional. So as to say, psychosurgery, in case it's used and prescribed as a treatment, it has to take the informed consent of the person on whom the surgery is going to be conducted, as well as the approval by the board, that is the State Medical Health Review Board. In terms of restraint and solitary confinement, it will not be allowed unless the condition is that he or she will harm himself or others, right? And also solitary confinement can only be allowed if it's prescribed by the psychiatrist. Now, in terms of this, because it's rarely used, it's supposed to be rarely used, once this treatment is prescribed, as in for solitary confinement, the medical officer, that is the psychiatrist, will have to take a note as to why he's prescribed this and for the duration of time in which the solitary confinement will be in effect. And a report will also then have to be sent to the board. Now, in terms of electroconvulsive therapy for minors, if you remember correctly, I had mentioned that ECT is not actually prescribed for minors. However, there is an exception. In case there is a chance that it is the only option, right? In such situations, you have to take the consent, the informed consent. Mind you, I'm not just saying consent, I'm saying informed consent. Informed consent goes one step beyond consent. Informed consent means you have to tell the patient, the nominated representative, exactly what the outcome will be. What is the probable outcome, and also what the treatment is, what will be the likely outcome, what will be the rehabilitation process. You have to inform them fully. Thereafter, if they give the consent, you will have to again take the approval by the review board. Now, in terms of the structure of the Mental Health Act, okay. On the top, we have the Mental Health Authority. Then we have the State Mental Health Authority. Thereafter, we have the State Mental Health Review Board. Now, in terms of the Mental Health Authority, it is supposed to be, in fact, State Mental Health and Central Mental Health Act Authority is supposed to be constituted 9 months, if I'm not mistaken, after the enactment of this act. However, in terms of Nagaland, it has still, if I'm not mistaken, it's been taken up by the High Court. Now, in case of the Central Mental Health Authority, it is the Secretary of the Director of Social Welfare and Family Department. In terms of State Mental Health Authority, is the Secretary or the Principal Secretary of the Health Department. And State Mental Health Review Board, the ex-officio chairperson is supposed to be the district judge. However, in Nagaland, the State Mental Health Review Board has not been constituted, so just to let you all know. Now, this structure is important because State Mental Health Authority, the duty of the function of the State Mental Health Authority is to ensure that all mental health establishments are registered under it, and they are supposed to provide the smooth functioning of it, and to provide occasional laws changing implementation so that this act is put in force smoothly. Similarly, the State Mental Health Authority at the state level, State Mental Health Review Board is to register all state mental health institutions under it. Now, another important factor being admissions. So I'm focusing mostly on the the medical officers right now. So in terms of mental health establishments, there are actually 4 categories of admissions. The first being independent admissions. So this is where I want to make it very clear how mental illness should not be, the stigma of mental illness is still there. This act tries its best to sort of change this stigma by stating the first part. If you see it properly, it reads independent admissions. The criteria would be person has capacity, severity of mental illness, benefit from admission, free will. Put simply, it means like any other doctor appointment. So you yourself voluntarily go to a mental health establishment and say XYZ reasons, right? You will be assessed. If it's voluntary, it's free will, then you will be admitted. So independent admissions is that. So as to say, you don't have to be ashamed, you don't have to be referred through XYZ to come to our establishment to be admitted. Now, second, in terms of minors. Minors, a very important factor being, admission is only done when it's needed, as a last resort. So as much as possible, in terms of admitting minors, it's always if no other treatment works, right? So while deciding the best interest of the minor has to be taken, admission last option, as I've mentioned, and severity of mental illness. Now, in terms of admitting a minor, because a minor cannot give consent, it's a nominated representative that has to give consent. Now, in case of minors, another obligation has been placed on the medical officers, so as to say, a report will have to again be given to the review board. Now, number 3 and number 4, so as to say supported admissions and continuous admissions, this is at a higher level, right? You need admission for a longer duration of time. So, supported admissions is for a period of 60 days, and the criteria being lack of capacity and high support need, bodily harm, violent behavior, poor self-care. Now, similarly, continuous admission also almost the same, it's just that it's continuous. In terms of supported admission, it's for 60 days, I've already mentioned. The difference being in continuous admissions, after 90 days period, the medical officer will again assess the person. After that, if he sees that he needs more, then will be extended to 120 days, thereafter 190 days. But after 190 days, if he still needs continued treatment, it doesn't start to 190 days, but it has to go back to again refer for 90 days, 120 days, 190 days. So it's like a cycle that just keeps going, as long as the person needs treatment. Now again, another factor being discharge. Discharge is not like a normal hospital, you just write, you prescribe the treatments and you go. No. In terms of discharge, an important factor being, before a patient is discharged, a consultation will have to be done with the nominated representative or caregiver, whichever. Now, whoever is there. Now, in terms of discharge, a discharge plan will also have to be prepared by the psychiatrist regarding treatment, services, and care to be provided and the duration. Copy of the discharge plan will be given to the patient, the caregiver, family, or relative. And the last part being, in case of discharge, I'm sure the medical officers know, sometimes they want to leave before the treatment is over, right? In normal situations also. But in case of this, there is a sort of mandatory provision where even if they want to leave before the treatment is done, you still have to make a discharge plan. You still have to give them a copy of the discharge plan. Now, this responsibility is placed on you in terms of discharge. I think this is the last point for the medical officers, is penalty. In case, there are 2 sections. These sections say, in case a person establishes a mental health care establishment without registering. Now, the administrator, as in the one who has opened it, will, for the first offense, will have to pay a penalty between 5,000 to 50,000. Second offense, 50,000 to 2 lakhs. Subsequent, that's the third offense, would be a penalty that may extend to 5 lakhs. Subsequently, any other offense would be, again, up to 5 lakhs. Now, if a person, as is the doctor now, if a doctor, knowingly, healthcare professional in this, knowingly works for such an institute, knowing that it's not registered, then he or she would have to pay a penalty that may extend to 25,000. The second offense being, if anyone works in contravention with the provisions of the Act. So, just to make it clear, I had mentioned certain provisions and prohibitions of procedures. So, if you conduct these procedures without if you conduct these treatments without due procedure following the Act, then for the first offense, it will amount to imprisonment that may extend to 6 months, and a fine of rupees 10,000. Second offense, imprisonment that may extend to 2 years and fine, and 50,000 to 5 lakhs. Now, that being said about the medical officers, going to the police officers. The duties of the police officers is more to do procedural based. In terms of duties of police officers, the OC in charge of the police station. Police station is the locality jurisdiction, right? So, apne locality if you find a person wandering and you feel that they are mentally unstable, mental illness, if he is at a risk to other people, mental illness for example, right? So the onus is upon you to take this person into your protective custody. Mind you, I'm not saying police custody arrest of accused right? This is protective custody. And during this protective custody period of time, what you have to do is, within 24 hours, take this person to the nearest district hospital for assessment. Alright? After assessing this person, then it is your duty, again, cast by the Act there, to take this person back to his home, to his residence. Now, one important factor being, if by chance this person is homeless, right? Now again a duty is cast upon you to file an FIR for missing persons. And your duty is to find and trace his family. Okay? So again, one part of this section was that in case a homeless man is kept in the protective custody, you are supposed to put him back in the, not put him back, but admit him to the homeless shelter provided by the government, which in Nagaland we do not have. So there will be other establishments, so you'll have to keep it there. Now, in terms of the standard procedure of persons with missing persons, there is a Supreme Court judgment back in 2013 where they gave written directives as to say how you're supposed to go about if by chance a child is missing, how to lodge an FIR, the procedures that you have to follow. So in other states, what I've noticed is, I think it is Andhra Pradesh and some other few district states, they have not formed an SOP specifically for how you are supposed to go about when a person is, an adult is lost or on some mind, missing person. But they have taken this SOP of minors as directed by the Supreme Court and formulated an SOP in that terms. So if you want it, if you want the SOP, you can kindly contact the District Legal Services. I'll give it through them for the respective district police stations. Now, an important factor being again, you have to inform the person who you're taking into your protective custody that he is being taken into protective custody. Like how arrest rather than the reasons for your arrest. Similarly, you have to tell them, this is the reason why we take you for protective custody, alright? Right. So, homeless person, as you can see, FIR of missing person, duty to trace the family, right? Now, in case of mental illness in private residence, so these things can happen where people inform the police that someone in my family, right, is suffering from mental illness, we don't know what to do, they will inform you. Your duty is to inform the magistrate. That is your role. Okay? And the police also, if you yourself come to know of such a person who is residing in the place, you will have to inform the magistrate. And also, just for clarification, when I say magistrate in this, as per the Act, magistrate is only classified to mean Judicial Magistrate First Class and Chief Judicial Magistrate, okay? Now, in terms of jail authority. Prisoners with mental illness, just to again be clear, is not a person with unsound mind, okay? So now, jail authority. The minute you come to know or you have an inkling that the person is suffering from mental illness, you have to inform the magistrate concerned who is trying the case. Okay? And appropriate steps will be taken for the release on bail or an undertaking or admission to the mental health establishment, but that will be looked after by the court. Now, medical officer of prison and jail are to send quarterly reports to the concerned board, which is a state mental health review board, certifying that there are no prisoners with mental illness. Medical officer of mental health establishment, who the prisoner has been referred to, shall once in 6 months make a special report to the authority. And the last part, we still have not put this into Act, but the government shall set up mental health establishment in the medical wing of at least one prison in each state and UT, which actually would be very helpful also for the jail authority, for the police, but it has still not been set up, so I'm just letting you know. This is the last part. Now, in terms of decriminalization of suicide, I'm not sure everyone knows this, I'm presuming you all know, but suicide is actually made an offense under 309 of the IPC. So, by the coming of this act, section 115 of this act has now made it based a presumption now. So now it's decriminalized in the sense, if you are caught attempting to commit suicide, right, you will not be charged under this section. An offense, you will not, this case won't go against you under this section. You will not be penalized under this section. And we will presume that you were under severe stress unless proven otherwise, obviously. Now, there's also again another duty cast, is that the central and state will have to provide care, treatment and rehabilitation to person who has attempted suicide under severe stress. Now, as I'm seeing these duties and things, if you notice, it's always a mix of administration, police, and medical officers. We have to work, in order for this act to be effective, we all have to know our duties also and take help from each other also for proceeding further, right? Now, in case of legal services, the point of legal services being, there is also a NALSA. NALSA is, that's basically National Legal Services Authority, they have made a scheme, right, in 2015 in case of persons with mental disability. Now, obviously, the scheme has not been amended after 2017, but until the 2015, the scheme will still be applicable is for the PLVs, that's paralegal volunteers, who are attached to these police stations to also help guide these police officers how to go about these processes, how to identify these medical health establishments that are under there so they can refer them, right? This is the middle role that legal services is supposed to play. And apart from that, mental health, just on a concluding note, we have had this training now, but more importantly, I think the problem with enacting this Mental Health Care Act is also in terms of desensitization of the public, because the public are still, in their mind, they're still backward, right? Backward as in, they are not accepting the fact that person can suffer from mental illness. So, I'm sure everyone has faced at least one person in their family where if the person says, I'm depressed, I feel like I can't do anything, right? What do they say? Hey, it's okay. Don't be so weak. Don't be like this. Even I went through it, I didn't feel anything. You know, we tend to, by these little comments, we tend to lower a person's, you basically, unknowingly, you have disregarded this person's emotional need. So, just my humble request to legal services and Project Home also in that matter is, not only for awareness programs in terms of the authority that are concerned, but also to extend it to the public. Maybe in the form of video, or maybe in the form of, through like notes on, through the phones. At least you can circulate these messages so as to say you can call this number or this, practically. I've also had the experience of, there was a child, he had killed his own brother, right? This is like a real case. He had killed his own brother and he was mentally unsound. They were not treated, right? And he was the only one who looked after his brother. His brother was going to get married. He had taken his brother was going to get married. So the brother took him to Kohima for his wedding shopping. One night he woke up and he killed his brother, right? Now what happened is, and this is why I'm saying people need awareness, is to say, in the place, I won't mention the district, but in that place, what they would do for a person who had killed their own brother, right, was keep him in a jail, in the house, okay? So it's like a man-made structure where you keep the person inside. He will be fed there, he will have to do his business there, he'll sleep there, everything there, right? Now, it had been a span of some months to a year. He got nothing. He became like an animal, right? Now, he could have been treated, he could have had a good life. You know, if they were also remotely aware that there was an opportunity like this. Now this is where desensitization really matters, and your roles really play, it's very important to say, not only there is an option, but how can I avail these services would be more important, because everyone knows, acha, even in terms of the police, everyone knows, biya kaam korle FIR lodge karo, itu piche ki karo, FIR bhi kina lodge karo. We are assuming because they are people who are within the circle, so we know. But don't go into this presuming that everyone knows everyone's role, right? So what happened with this person is he ended up dying. He ended up dying in the cage. Okay. So this is why I'm saying this is just one instance in the state of Nagaland, but I'm very sure there are much more people who have been suffering this fate, right, for mental illness, which could have been addressed if given the right treatment. Now, treatment also with mental illness, again, a very important thing. I'm sure it will be emphasized by the medical officer concerned, but if at all possible for treatment is always better at the inception as opposed to at the end, right? Timing of treatment also matters.
Madam Ila managed to motivate district administration, with your due permission, I said she motivated you. Managed to motivate, of course, legal service authority, they were always into this. Since I was in Mugokchung for a long time, mental health program started in Mugokchung when I was there. I know what has all happened in Mugokchung. I got transferred here, I am only 1 month. So I am not familiar with many of you. I am not familiar with even the doctors who are here in the hospital. I am trying my best to get their names. Nambin Najana. This morning emergency doctor I met, I have to ask his name. Kikavi, I say Kikavi. Title. Kikavi, no? I'm just trying to remember his name. He told me this morning. So that is where I am today. Thank you for the opportunity. Some points were raised during the discussion hour, and all of those points I included in my presentation. Now, my presentation will not only be in line with as caregivers. Hello. Can you hear me? As caregivers, what are our roles and responsibilities? Yes. But as caregivers, what are our challenges? I will not stick to that only. Our respected judicial magistrate had mentioned about the role of police. I will touch a little bit further on that from my experiences. I wish the social welfare department is here with us, because a majority chunk of the responsibility falls on the social welfare department. When we say this is the responsibility of the government, then we say it is the responsibility of the administration. Ultimately, it boils down to the social welfare department. Administration will direct the social welfare department, and they have to perform. That is how I see the things to be. Government's responsibility comes down to the administration. Administration directs the social welfare department. Why not government-run shelter home in Nagaland? And of all the places in a cosmopolitan place like Dimapur, it is a shame. Why are we tasking the missionaries of charity institutions? There's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, and I hope by today's interaction, way forward can be discussed, and accordingly we will process in such a way that at least in Dimapur as a model for other districts, something can be done in this regard. In the previous presentation, Kia said, our presenter, she was talking about ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. One is direct ECT, one is modified ECT. Direct ECT is without muscle relaxants. Modified ECT is with muscle relaxant. Direct ECT is inhuman, so it has become obsolete. Modified ECT will give muscle relaxant in such a way that the muscle relaxant does not go to the upper limb. blood pressure curve to edit tight or not pandidi. Muscle relaxation inject group. Muscle relaxation will not go to this upper lip, right upper lip. We give the electric shock. We induce murgi bimar koina murgi bimar. Epilepsy. We induce epilepsy. And this was an accidental finding discovery way back in the 1970s, most probably in England, where a lunatic roaming around in the street because of electrolyte imbalance, he developed epilepsy. And as he came out from the epilepsy, they got palpitation. Now the scientists have developed this ECT. Today it is in use. In Dimapur, why is it not in use? Mukokchung mental health program that provided ECT. Dimapur, it is still lying, not being used. Why? We need anesthetist to give the anesthesia and the muscle relaxant. This muscle relaxant will paralyze the muscle of respiration also. So an anesthetist who knows how to give this kind of muscle relaxant for those patients requiring ECT, we don't have. It depends on from which institutions they have studied. In the institution where they have studied, if they are not exposed to this modified ECT, they would not know anything about modified ECT. If they had studied in an institution, post-graduation anesthesia, a place where modified ECT is regularly being used, then they would have some knowledge. In Dimapur, I have not yet talked with the anesthetist in Dimapur. In Mukokchung, the anesthetist was not exposed to, she didn't have any idea. And it would be dangerous if we go ahead with the modified ECT, so we didn't do. In Dimapur, I'm here to consult with the anesthetist whether he had been exposed to this kind of treatment or not. If yes, then we will start this modified ECT, which is a last resort treatment for psychotic patients who are very, very resistant to antipsychotic medication. That is about the ECT, which our madam has talked about. Psychosurgery, psychosurgery mostly is in relation with dimag the cortex alag-alag thagide. Cerebral cortex, cerebellum, frontal laro, the rest of the brain. Connection to dissect corridor. For those resistant to even ECT, antipsychotic, but still he is harmful to himself, to others. In the condition that resection, psychosurgery is done. So that is what she was saying. The concert MO, we have to explain about it. So I'm just in it for general knowledge only. It is not related to today's program. Lisa, where is she? She had just quoted a new concept which is new to me. When a patient comes to the psychiatrist, that needs to be referred first to the clinical psychologist, psychosocial worker. Yeah? Yeah, Lisa, who pointed that out? Okay. So till today, I have not yet come across the concept that a patient, a psychiatric patient, when he comes, needs to be referred to a clinical psychologist, psychosocial worker, and then only the patient comes to the psychiatrist and I initiate the treatment. So that is a new concept. If that is a new concept, probably I may need to get updated on that. So kindly update me on that if that kind of a new concept is there. Psychiatrist. Madam was saying 1 lakh population, one psychiatrist is the guideline, desired guideline. 1 lakh population for one psychiatrist. That is what you mentioned. No, you don't remember the figure. Oh, I think, or ETC Mensa quoted that, yeah, that is true. How many psychiatrists do you think are there in Nagaland? 7. Only 7. We are what? 11 district there are 4 or 5 district 8%. Some 16, 17 district. And we have 7 psychiatrists. Now 2 psychiatrists. One is already in additional director rank. So he is to be the directorate from additional director rank. The second one is in the directorate because a psychiatrist has to be there in the directorate to look after the state mental health program. So a psychiatrist, he is there in directorate. That is Dr. Kezo, who was here prior to me. Being senior, he went to directorate and I came here in my place. Arokiman Pachishi psychiatrist. Just think about it. Now I am in Dimapur. I left Mugukchong no psychiatrist. And Mugukchong will not get psychiatrist for a long time to come. Unfortunately. But I've trained my staff in such a way that they are as good as psychiatrists because I knew I would be out one fine day. So they would be handling the mental health program in Mugukchong as if a psychiatrist is there. That is Mugukchong. Now one psychiatrist is there in Tuinsang by virtue of the fact that his wife is also there as an anesthetist. So he opted to be there. Another psychiatrist was in Koema but recently got transferred to FEC. 2 psychiatrists in Koema. One in Mental Health Institute and one in Naga Hospital. That is all the psychiatrists that we have. And in order to achieve what the Mental Health Act says, the right of a mentally ill patient that he should be treated, accordingly we are trying to devise a kind of protocol where we will be zonal psychiatrists. I am here, I will look after nearby district, New Lane, Chupukutima, Peren, like that. Tuinsang will look after Morung, Longling, like that. So we are working on that, I hope it gets done. At the same time, we are working on training. We have already trained, but again, a reorientation training will be required for all the medical officers. That is in the process of discussion. So that at grassroots level, in primary health center and community health center level, those trained medical officers will be there to meet the needs of what the Mental Health Care Act says. So that is how we are trying to deal with the shortage situation. Reason for accessibility towards mental health care. Or Madam has highlighted some points. There are many points, which is one of my favorite topics, but I will not waste time talking about it. But most important points Madam has highlighted to us, so I will not go further into that. Just, I was surprised. No offense meant. Today in the Nagaland Post newspaper there, even for this nomination of representative, like our madam is in charge of marital thing, isn't it? Where for 1 month, no objection like that. So even for nomination of representative of a mentally ill person, principal judge, I'm not familiar with it. Today in Nagaland Post. There, the reference was Indian Lunacy Act 1992. I don't know why we are so backward. We are talking about Mental Health Act 2017, but in that Achilaga paper, there's the newspaper there. By chance, I saw. So it was in reference to Indian Lunacy Act 1992. Kurigana nomination of representative for a mentally ill person. In the organization, so I think all this needs to be rectified. let us update ourselves and try to be the latest. Let us not go backward. Because if we are still in the Lunacy Act of 1992, we would still be having mental asylums. In England, mental asylums are still there. To keep these destitutes, we were talking about destitutes, where to keep them. And it is a shame that we don't have government-run shelter homes, which should be directed by the administration, and the Social Welfare Department has to make it a point that government-run shelter homes are there, female, male, for the destitute, mentally challenged people, maybe mental retardation or mental illness. So that should be a homework for all of us. Missionaries of charity. Ituan takana ulimane police officers, police constables kan bari pal kamshi kuriya. I am very thankful already. Homeless pirai takana to thuri na. Protective custody. That is a new word, and I didn't know all these technicalities. I learned it is protective custody. So, later around Academy to missionaries of charity to Takana just think about that. We should be very thankful to missionaries of charity. They might be getting help from many financial help from outside, but still we also, since they are there and they are doing a very good social service, we have to think about them and cooperate with them as much as possible. And they provide general medicine, not scientific medicine. Arrange not that they lack money, no. But I want to make them feel appreciated. So that is what I do when they bring patients. If they are missionaries of charity, there are 40 of them languishing. Senior most is since last 12 years 15 of them are under my treatment. They keep on coming for follow-up. With medication, they improve. Either they get cured, chronic cases, they will not get cured, but with medication, they will improve to a functional level, they will improve to a cooperative level in such a way that they are able to say from where they have come, what their interest is. So police can't give him homework to the in presence of the legal authority and administration. Because as was mentioned by previous speakers, it has to be a joint collaboration among all of us, starting from the administration, judiciary system, and the police, and then the NGOs. So it's one talking about missionaries of charity there, if possible and if agreed upon. Because we will be discussing way forward. If agreed upon, those caregivers in missionary of charity, they have managed to get the address of most of the clients who are there. Supposing they compile a list and hand it over to the police, nearest police station. I presume it should be the responsibility of the police to locate their relatives, to locate the nearest police station of their address, convey information to the relatives through that police station. Relatives should come and take them back. I think that is a possibility, isn't it? Otherwise, dumping ground is nowhere as a Dimapur. Most of these cases, railway station, loitering around nearby railway station. What is happening? A mentally retarded child or a child with mental illness. Ama baba chinda takada palbra sai segana ayas. Pura kade aseto. Some 30 years, 40 years digangan ayaseto. My presumption only. Ama baba chinda takada palbra sai segana. Ama baba to invalid vision muri jaichi. Now relatives are to shoulder the responsibility of taking care of that person, and they didn't want to. And they know that Christian state Nagaland tadi lui jale mane bhalbra saho. Orissa nishna, Bihar nishna, Yukanra pishi ayana sede. They will come to the railway station, dump the person there, they go back. Because they don't want to take care of that relative who is having mental illness or mental retardation. Our Muigan like good Samaritan, we take care of them. Of course, by doing that, we get blessings from above. But how far can it go? How long will it go? 1,000 naman hujali kini ka abo. You think that missionaries of charity can handle 1,000 such people? It will keep on increasing as day goes by. And before it becomes out of control, something needs to work out. My suggestion is, I'm repeating, address kandu police kange dilimane, will you be able to? And that is supposed to be a responsibility actually, according to the Act. That is one, which I want to highlight. Number two, through the administration, directing the Social Welfare Department to open government-run shelter homes for such cases, destitutes. If that is so, it is central jail ki mana se go mentally well. Parujunas negi central jail what I learned, having mental illness. Our judiciary law laga line there, how to go about what to do for them, they know best, I don't know much. But supposing because of their mental health problem, they are to be released from the jail. Unless a dedicated psychiatric wing is there in the jail, they should not be there, isn't it? They have our rights to keep by keeping them in the jail. We are talking about their rights. So unless a dedicated wing can be there in the jail, I don't know whether that will materialize or not. Even if that materializes, how long it will take, I cannot say. It won't at least they can be in the government-run shelter homes, isn't it? So that is some of the suggestions I wanted to make. We'll amend the presentation. You know, sometimes I get disappointed. Ito na area to pusa na area pusa to area no offense meant to anyone, but all the departments, including medical department, pusa taka area de kram muruk yawa me kuite mana budara. Wildfire charge is na pusa taka bali jayas. All the departments. And when we talk about these destitutes, who will take care of them? They are also humans. They are not animals. When we talk about this is an area where there is no money. If we go thoroughly, I think not administration, but social welfare department director is supposed to be fishing out that money. Pura ek decide money. So I was saying social welfare department be takili palas ni pocket rest assured that you have helped someone in need, blessings will come down from heaven. Kunaba do wila nature pocket pusa those Samaritan work, police officers, Kanra police, continue to do it. But at the same time, that should not be so forever to come. What needs to be done? A clear-cut directive. Ekta roam around with ekta chawan not it will have treatment expenses. Whatever is there in the hospital, medicines, whatever, free of cost people, will be not all required medicines at the end of the hospital. Some medicines may need to be bought. I think a clear-cut directive should be there, headed by the administration and what the law says, the judiciary system, and then the police department. It one me like a jail bra, and we couldn't bring anyone to jail bra, check up on it. Umbra, Tawai Canadian design. Recently, of jail bra, we don't have mental patients. So, Tawai Canadian design. So, it should not be like that. Let there be a system where constable can be, they are aware of it that it destitute that we can always tell expenses to the I'm just setting an example. We cover the Canadian case memo Arojagana, jailer lote, subordinate lote, or whosoever authority reimbursed in the money. Some system has to be there in place. So the reason why there is no money, not much money in this area, why it is like ama nai, papa nai laga area that is concerned stakeholders who are here discussing about this. Itu laga do ama papa natakan isna se, ayibina magano ikilog miligana, magan ama o magan papa o. That is the main target of what I feel. This time do jaya se, that is the main target. Let us take it seriously. Ama papa nataka program isna narakiti. That is my request to everyone. Saturdays, I can give time. Today is a Saturday, I'm able to give time. Program bang dakilimane, my suggestion is, let that be on Saturdays only. I will be there when it comes to this kind of an activity. Other working days, we are bounded by the directive from our higher-ups. Other working days, I have to be in the OPD. Supposing I go away from the OPD without higher-up direction and something happens in the OPD, a big problem arises in the OPD, then who will be answerable? There will be no higher-up order to support where I have disappeared. So another suggestion is whenever any program is made, kindly make it on Saturday. Mental health program to kiki Korea it started from 2016. We have had a lot of awareness programs around newspaper day, training of medical officers, nurses, visiting schools, organizing World Mental Health Day, going to churches, having outreach mental health camps. So since 2016 till today, as was suggested by previous speakers, of course I was not in Dimapur, I was in Morung, so I was doing that. But the one who was before me here, he was doing that. So a lot of awareness had gone in, but Dimapur being a vast area, I think a lot more needs to be done. Morung being a small area, I could cover the entire district. But same budget is allocated. So in Dimapur, I think a lot more needs to be done. But according to the directive from the Government of India Health Ministry, our initial phase is over. Now we are at the tertiary stage. Tertiary stage means no more awareness, no more training. Awareness done, training done, patients gets referred to you. You sit in the OPD and treat the patients. So we are in the tertiary stage, according to the Government of India Health Ministry. But it may be so in Morung, but in Dimapur still, a lot of awareness activities needs to be taken up from government side, whether it comes or not, difficult to say. But since Inla and all are there so active, maybe we can work out and keep on going around for the awareness drive, for which I'm always there, willing, whenever I'm free. Issues of concern. When a case is brought by police to our OPD, that becomes a medical legal case for us, isn't it? Anything can happen, any question can be asked to us, that becomes a medical legal case for us. So for such cases, we maintain a separate file. In such medical legal cases, we don't mix it up with other patients who come. We maintain MRT. I'm not very thorough. There must be some rules, a system as to how may it be for physical examination, the medicine OPD, surgical OPD, or may it be for mental retardation or mental illness to my psychiatry OPD. But I think a system must be there in place until and unless it is so emergency that the person needs to be brought without any procedure, and then the doctor is bound to treat. So emergency cases will be there. And if it is not an emergency case, I think a system should be there. Because that is what I had experienced during my post-graduation days in AIMS. And this Hazarika court, I used to go there as an expert witness. So whenever a patient is brought to AIMS, such medical legal cases, I was entrusted to take care of as a junior resident. So police side probably, court side probably, ekta chiti ani to. Itu chiti ani kana itu cases te mukan examine kuri to. and accordingly we respond in written as to what our observation is. And I think that kind of a system is not there in place here. Not only Dimapur, Morung, I think it would be put it from the judiciary side. If police department and judiciary department, if they can come together and see as to how the system should be. Directly with no imposition, I don't know what words in use. Inigagan takana gulimane, mugan sato illegal sanjina ujaw. My presumption only I may be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So a system, I think, is there in such a way that later is there, basing on which I see the patient. It up to India, because that was the prevailing system. Kali Bursuki India, so let us work on this, that system. What kind of a system is there? Judiciary people and police people, they will know. It in this relation, we were talking about mental illness. Mental illness there, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental retardation of only drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and mental illness. It will cover mental health care act. I just want to know from the police department side. Drug peddlers or drug users can use Kuridaga Tawai to read na. From medical department side, I will have to inquire. Whatever drug has been seized, this will give us an idea as to what drugs are prevailing in Nagaland, in Dimapur. Sunflower oil. It is colorful powder. Or there is a lot of powder. Sunflower, it should be no good. Will be sunflower kaigana, taigan naga, kick by effect wado. It is not like opiate kaigana, brown sugar kaigana, kick punch na to whereas sunflower, it is a peptide, an opioid. So supposing sunflower toxin, can it be sent somewhere? I think it will be there in the establishment of police department. To find the content of that drug, to find the purity of that drug. And if that information is shared to us, I hear our drug users to show your hand. That is Dr. Taheto. And we had some sunflower samples seized from the clients who had come from OST. Ito aja andingan na police kangi tipu niya muna bosi. Kabide udah tipu niya na. Awalnya system ekta dagili mana itu assist kurubina. Content tu kia ase, purity tu kia ase na. We are still confused about this. Yeah.
Here I'll just interject for in terms of the content of what exactly these seized drugs are, it's only by the order of the magistrate that it can be sent for forensics. Okay. And for drugs cases, it is sent for forensics. Okay. So if you want what the content is later, okay, you can always ask if the by chance is related to the case which has been caught. Okay. Right? Just so for you to get a general picture of it.
Yes.
Right? But these things are not just sent by the police on their own volition. They have the authority also to send it, but these things are not, we don't have the testing in Nagaland. No. We send it to Guwahati. Yeah. Okay, we send it to Assam. It takes a bit of a while, but yes, it comes nonetheless. Okay, so in terms of what exactly it is, if you want, I guess the police can help in that sector, but from the legal side, we do not give orders like that. Okay, from the judiciary side at least. In terms of that, but yes, testing is done, but not if it's not an accused in our case.
Oh, like that.
You understand? See, what happens is a person may come to your hospital for treatment, saying that he has been taking some toxic for example, right? Now, for that testing to be done, I don't know whether you all can do it in your own capacity, but for us, we only take matters, and the judiciary will only step in when it is a case that is pending in the court.
Okay.
So that's where we cannot overstep our what you call our authority, our own organization, right? Separately judiciary, legislation. We cannot overstep.
That is what I'm saying. Police can be thuri duna, sunflower banana naga thuri duna. Itu to accuse sujai duna. Na itu one out of pathaw baribo through the court. Aru apni ambi itu chani thakile mane it is good for you. Mugan itu chani thakile mane as a caregiver, it is much better. We are in a better position to be able to help the drug user better. It is like sunflower laga, it is still confusion there. Yapa, all is yours. Methamphetamine. In fact, I don't want to talk about the one who expired day before yesterday, who came from jail. Day before, I was there in the emergency room, and the specialist was there. Police can't do this. Since jail is jail and very strict, retorted drugs, the presentation was a little peculiar. I was suspecting something else, but I will not dwell upon that. Death certificate has already been issued. There are not many cases where the pupils are bilaterally widely dilated, not reactive to light. It happens in yaba, methamphetamine overdose. No other medical condition that is just a side part, something which we should be aware of. Sabuli lage na police can strict management na jane na kiba ekta bra kutuba chakara lik na pathai thake ni ikle possibility aru itu truck users kan chalak pishe ase to police can strict management bro ite samo par balra pathori pani ne itu de thake dis was hospital te go to any extent na to indiga be suspect ratio de we did not mention about that they before yesterday jail bra ni kana unfortunately could not help the patient with children. Police can drug addict, drug peddler can always tea dawai ase indigan luigana taka tourishna turane. Can I have some inputs? Takana pocket check pushne always tea dawai ase. Chawan kan bra thuri thaki bola ijane. Because unfortunately, I don't know from where, but OST medicines have leaked out into the street. It is being sold. This is a regulated drug. OST medicine is also a buprenorphine. It is a buprenorphine. Like any other opioid, if it is not taken, then severe withdrawal symptoms will happen. Heroin khaya ase, ito khanai bole mane severe withdrawal symptoms. Opioid buprenorphine OST la dawai khaya ase, khanai bole mane severe withdrawal symptoms. Inga develop hoya ase de. But this buprenorphine is now available in the market. How it is happening, we want to know. So police can OST dawai ase illegal Tigana taka turili mane. It will be good to investigate as to from where they got the medicine. In your way, you can kindly tell us so that we can know from where it has leaked out. Because the OST medicine comes to OST centers only. It is not available in the market to buy. OST center de I taigan hadane mugan dispense ko. Kunduba kelo because of human reasons, 3 din 4 din korne kote kanborna. It one possibility. And if that is highlighted to us, then we terminate that client from the OST program. Because he will repeat doing that. So OST would appreciate if you can kindly inquire as to from where they got the OST medicine. It should not be available in the market. If it is rampantly available in the market, the concept of OST program gets defeated. And this OST program concept is so beautiful, the best for drug users The reason why it is here today, since 1970s in America, not people in orphan, but they're using methadone. Every 5-6 kilometers, there is a methadone outlet for drug users in America. Nagaland it started since last few years, now it is available in the street. That will defeat the concept of OST. Which will government just for awareness what OST program is. Time will explain why I am saying it is a very beautiful program. OST Tawari is a treatment of tablet which we are giving. Heroin, spasmoproximon, half-life is only 4 to 6 hours. After 6 hours, tagan aro kapli ulaichen uli terki uide. Mugan bratia buprenorphine to half-life is 24 hours. Pichuda ekbar khaile mane kali pichuda cover hobo. Tai kit tumi pabo withdrawal symptoms pinata. Aro it is a legal drug. So they will not indulge in illegal activities, because what they need we are providing. So what happens is in due course of time, 6 months, 7 months, excel to something OST. In your Koran, they can join Court Larai Chagra and he becomes a good person, but still he is a drug addict. He is on people of OST medicine. In your his life gets well adjusted. His family members started trusting him. His colleagues, relatives started trusting him. But he is still an addict because he is taking OST. Or at that point of time, he is well adjusted in life. He is not mingling with those other drug users. Everyone trusts him. He is doing something for the society, doing something for the family. He is being productive. He is using the time and money saved for doing something productive. Then we suggest that why don't we taper down this OST medicine and stop? And since he is well adjusted in life, with mutual agreement, we taper down and stop the medicine. We do OST toward the chances of relapse is very, very minimum. Rehab chabo olabo relapse. Detox group olabo relapse. I am not against rehab also required, detox also required. Only OST concept, that is how it is. Well adjusted in life, 6 months, 1 year, relapse chance to iman. So I wanted you, the stakeholders, to understand what is OST. I don't blame them because they don't know the concept of what OST program is. So I wanted to let you know about that OST program also.